encyclopedic. I hope he wasn't wrong. Pass love.
These are Goethe's dying words. Mehr Licht, more light, please. I like to see people's eyes. I like to talk to people. More light, please. On people, not on me, please. Thanks. I'm always tempted, because it's coming to the end of the conference, to react to about 7,000 things I have had. Only one, because I have to, obey this time limit. You heard this thing that the intraday difference in Microsoft trading is now bigger than the total value of US Steel. Kind of, who cares about US Steel? Let me remind you that we are here in this building, in this auditorium, which could be shaken in next microsecond by an 8.2 Richter magnitude earthquake, right? Now, you can pour all the concrete into this building you want. Concrete is very fine in compression, not very good in tension. A thing which is absolutely excellent in tension and unbeatable for the price value per tension unit is steel, right? It's very difficult to build this building from intraday difference in Microsoft trading or silicon chips, right? This nonsense talk about dematerialization of modern economy gets on my nerves all the time. Every year, we need 500 million tons of pig iron, which we change into steel, and we need another 200 million tons of recycled old steel to make it into new steel. Without it, we just wouldn't be here. Modern civilization is still Iron Age, very much is and always will be. In this country, we have now an infrastructural backlog of about $2 trillion worth of repairing bridges and roads and old buildings, which is steel, 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 and concrete, concrete, concrete always. No chips at all. Chips are good to maintain the temperature in a building, really, right? But not so much to build that infrastructure, right? There are so many other things I want to react to, but I will not, because I have to do something which I hate to do. I am a bearer of bad news. You see, all these beautiful things about cloning this and that and enjoying great tree of life and operating on brain without really operating on it, we may not get to enjoy any of these things in the next 50 or 80 years if we will mess up something which keeps us all alive. And this is the thing called the biosphere. You had Bill Joy talking about the extremely complex computer system which suddenly come down and you are just, berserk and running around and try to fix the stuff. Let me assure you that the most imaginable, most complex computer systems are jokes and toys compared to this thing called the biosphere. Yet at the same time, this thing is so evanescent, so ethereal, so immaterial almost. You think how it could be all these whales and elephants and tropical rainforests. Well, think of this way. You see, most of it is water actually. Most of you is water. Most of anything is water really. If you abstract water from everything which is alive, and if you distribute all these elephants and sequoias and tropical rainforests and bacteria on land, if you distribute them uniformly over the planet, it will be a thickness of 10 centimeters. For those of you living in medieval age of measurements, it's 4 inches, okay? 10 centimeters, that's the slime, that's the film of life on continents. If you take all the whales, and you've seen all those dolphins and everything, and if you abstract water from them, and phytoplankton and krill and everything, and if you spread it on the surface of the ocean, it's 0.03 millimeters. That's a sheet of paper. That's what the biosphere amounts to. Yet it keeps us all alive, and it always has. And the greatest library of all times, it's not in Alexandria. It's not on the net, never will be. The greatest library of all times is the genetic information locked in 10, 15, 20 million species. We don't know how many in the biosphere. It has taken 4 billion plus years to evolve. There it's stored, there it's coded. Now what we are doing is something utterly criminal. If you would go to your local library, pull out a number of books and just start tearing them up or burning it in front of the library, you'd be arrested in no time, right? It will be right up on the local paper on the first page. This is what we are doing to the tune of about 1,000 species every day or 2 days. Hey, we don't know because we don't know how many species we are destroying. We don't know how many species we have. We don't know how many species we have to the nearest order of magnitude. We describe about 1.75 million of them, okay? Out of this, about half of them are beetles or arthropods. But we don't know. You see, you go to a tropical tree and start shaking a tree or fumigating it, and these beetles start raining on you, really, right? So you see, there are papers published which tell you, oh, we may have like 5 million species, 10 million species, 50 million, 20 million species. We just simply don't know even to the nearest order of magnitude how many species we have. We will never know because now we are destroying them so rapidly that before we get to the time of describing them and identify them, see, we have tremendous shortage of people who can describe those species. People go into whatever, neuronal networks and computer junk, but we do not have systematic zoologists and systematic botanists who could say, oh, well, this is a species, really, right? So we are losing this library at this tremendous rate. Unfortunately, this library is not divided evenly around. If it would be, it would be easier to protect it. It's concentrated in some places. Madagascar, it's nearly gone. Madagascar is just stripped of nearly everything except people and eroded red soil, and here and there a few forests and a few strange-looking monkeys, which are very close to us, actually. Congo, you know what's been happening in Congo? People killing people all the time. That's where Rwanda, Burundi is the basin of Congo. Right? You know what's been happening in Indonesia, the third great center of biodiversity on this planet? It's been burning. It's been burning every dry season, and there are many more dry seasons because of what we call the Southern Oscillation El Niño-La Niña phenomenon. It's just simply too dry, and whole Kalimantan goes up in flame, and now we can see it in real time on internet from satellite, showing all these flames burning whole Kalimantan. Then, of course, the last big center is the Amazon basin in Southern Hemisphere, and then, of course, is China. Chinese eat everything which moves and everything which doesn't, really. The loss of biodiversity in South China is immense. Plus, there is this big sucking south. All these pythons and all other snakes and turtles and fish from Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, it's imported to China. Why? Because of us people, or maybe you people, because I rarely do these trips into Walmarts. You go to Walmart, you buy the stuff. Where it's made? In China. Chinese get rich. If Chinese get rich, what do? They want to eat exotic stuff, right? It's a society which loves exotic stuff, so they import the stuff. So next time, you buy a whatever hammer in Walmart, you are responsible for a death of python from Vietnam, which is shipped to China. It's global now. It's just, we are all guilty. We are all burning this great library, which took 4 billion years to develop. This is not the only thing which we are doing to the biosphere. Energy comes in from the sun, no shortage of that. This is an open system. We all take lots of energy and process it and change it into something. We are a great, as Schrödinger would say, we are a great neg-entropic system. We are always denying entropy. We are getting more complex, more organized, which is not the way the rest of the universe operates. So this is this miracle called life. But as far as materials go, they just cannot keep coming in and coming out. They've got to be recycled. We are messing that stuff to a very large extent. We mess up with every cycle. Carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, sulfur cycle. These cycles keep life going along. Carbon cycle is the worst one. It's the essential one. You take that water out of living matter. What is left? 45% of what is left is carbon. We are fundamentally carbon with a little bit of oxygen and some hydrogen and some nitrogen in protein thrown in, and a little bit of sulfur to keep these proteins three-dimensional so they wouldn't fall and fall on you. We are messing this carbon cycle in a way which is mind-boggling, brutal, and utterly unnecessary. Up to about 1850, 1870, there were 250 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the air. For every million parts of the air, whatever, nitrogen, oxygen there in it, one part of 280 parts of CO2. Then we started to pick up this burning of fossil fuels. We started to measure it in detail. We know it from the bubbles in the Arctic and Antarctic ice. Then we started to measure it actually in 1958 during International Geophysical Year. 320 ppm by 1958. Now we are at 370 ppm. So we march in 120 years, we increase the concentration by 30%. This increases the greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect is very good to have. Without it, we wouldn't be here. Without the greenhouse effect, no atmosphere, no gases which take out the outgoing radiation, the planet will be about 255 degrees Kelvin. We will be about total freeze up all the time. Because of greenhouse effect, we are a lot warmer. We are about 15 degrees Celsius above freezing point. But what we don't need is an excessive greenhouse effect. Too little of it, you got ice age. Too much of it, you start having all sorts of unpleasant consequences. We are getting to the edge, to the point where we might be feeling unpleasant consequences. Now, the simplest primer to understanding the greenhouse gas business is this. We have no idea how it will unfold. It's so complex that we have no idea. If you ever hear anybody telling you that he or she knows that by year 2100 we will know that we have 2.5 5 degrees Celsius extra temperature, and it will cause greater dryness on the prairies. This is nonsense. We just don't know. It's so complex, we don't know. But the rate is everything. If the warming will proceed at 1.5 degrees Celsius over a century, hey, that's easy, no problem, right? If there will be a warming of 2 degrees Celsius over 50 years, that's a real problem. Maybe not for us, but for Bangladeshis. You even don't have to touch the Arctic or Antarctic ice, but suppose you're just 2 degrees Celsius warmer, the water expands. Just the expansion of seawater maybe raise the ocean level maybe just by 30 centimeters. Well, Dutch will laugh, right? Have you seen the Dutch dikes, right? 30 centimeters, who cares, right? But Bangladesh, during the cyclone season, already half of the Bangladesh is underwater right now. You get 30 centimeters to it, you'll have 3%, and you may have something like 20 million people dying in a big cyclone. Plus, what you do, you increase the greenhouse effect, of course you increase the evaporation of water, so everything will be more violent. There'll be more violent cyclones, more violent hurricanes. You may have a claim that on Eastern Seaboard something like whatever. You have the riches of the US described what's the English term, the real estate, $40 trillion. Right? So one of these hurricanes, big ones, may sweep category 7, which we haven't seen yet ever, so to speak, and you have a $10 trillion damage from Florida all the way to Massachusetts. We just simply don't know. So as prudent people, what we should be doing, well, we shouldn't be pumping so much of that stuff into the air, really, right? We shouldn't be burning that library at such a fast rate, because we don't know when and how we will need these things and what the consequences of these things will be. Now, totally switch the gears. What can we really do? As a scientist, I want to do something practical. What can we do about this? Oh, a great deal we can do about this. Just concentrate on these numbers. These are scientific units. I could do it in oil tons, equivalents of oil, but it's the same thing anyway. It's the relative magnitude here. It's gigajoules, 1 billion of joules of energy per capita. Energy is the great stand-in for everything. Per capita consumption of energy tells you about everything else. People who consume lots of energy per capita consume lots of food and lots of iron and lots of microchips, everything, right? Sub-Saharan Africa, 1 gigajoule of energy per year per capita. India, just short of 10. China, just short of 30. Global average, about 60. Western Europe, European Union, 130, 150, 170. Japan, 170. North America, Canada and United States, 350. Okay? What do we get for it? We don't live longer. Japanese live longer. Italians live longer. Are we more literate? Has been covered here, right? This is the most illiterate society ever on this planet, ever since we introduced the massive literacy, naturally, right? Okay. Are we happier? Gallup had that interesting poll asking people, are you satisfied in your life, right? Thais consume about 35 gigajoules. Thais are about as happy as Americans, 75% of them are happy, as Germans, who consume about 150 gigajoules, right? So what has this bought us? Not the longevity, not literacy, not happiness. Are we more secure in this continent? There are like 70,000 gunshot wounds and murders every year. Okay. Now, you look at the efficiency. We don't consume 350 gigajoules in the US and Canada because we will be inefficient. We make steel in Canada as efficiently or more efficiently than Japanese. American agriculture is most efficient in the world. These are not our problems. We are not wasteful in making stuff, right? And of course, computer people will pride, say, oh, this is the most efficient stuff ever coming down the pike. What we do is what we call the discretionary personal consumptions. Do the Italians or Japanese have these things when you see landing in Monterey or Denver or Minneapolis from the air, like 8,000, 10,000 square foot houses? Well, they don't really, right? Got to be heated in Minnesota winter, really, right? That is bringing these 350. Do the average Japanese or Italian family, do they have 3 SUVs per 2 people, as you see in California? Well, they don't really, right? Does an average Norwegian family, comes Friday afternoon and say, oh, what we will do? Oh, just get on a shuttle and go to Las Vegas over the weekend. A city, fastest growing standard metropolitan area in the United States, in the desert, using the water which already has been over-allocated for past 20 years, right? I mean, and going there what, gambling these trillions of dollars away. So this is our real problem, that you people have to pray and day and night that the global warming which is coming will be just mild and protracted and the rate will be low. Because if it will hit us, the action will be needed. Who will have to act? not the Chinese, because when you start multiplying these things, there is 1.2 billion Chinese, but hey, it's less than 30 gigajoules silk. So, in per capita terms, they have a big moral claim not to do anything. Plus, they haven't done anything over past 100 years. It's not only how high we are, but also how high we have been for past century, really, right? And even in absolute terms, we are still the king of the heap. 5% of population, global population in this continent is consuming 25% of the global resources, right? So, you can invent the most marvelous chip ever, but people need to eat, people need to build those infrastructures, people have the expectations. For better or worse, people are patterning their expectations after this continent, which is a total madness. Start multiplying 6 billion people. We may be lucky. We may not hit 10 billion by 2050, but we surely hit 8.5. That's the minimum in the pike. It's somewhere between 8.5 and 10. Now start multiplying 9 billion people by the current American consumption. It's just impossible. Something has to give. And that is the only way in long run what will give. This will give, right? This is just about the peak or just before the peak, and it's going to turn down very rapidly. There is no other choice. Now, there are so many opportunities you have. It's unbelievable. What we could do is unbelievable. But it's tough. You do these studies, and it's fascinating how little is needed. You plot every imaginable, what we call the physical quality of life variable, and every imaginable intellectual quality of life variable against that consumption. And they all bend about the same time, either this way or that way. That is, you measure infant mortality, you measure life expectancy. There is no gain after 70 gigajoules per year per capita. Above that, there is no gain, basically, right? Intellectual is different. You want lots of people to go to university to enjoy education. The band is around 100 gigajoules per year per capita. So to have a decent life, even at the current rate of energy consumption, nobody needs to consume more than about 100 gigajoules of energy per year per capita and all other materials, which is about, less than 1/3, which we are consuming right now. With the improved energy efficiency in the future, we could bring it down to 50. We could easily have it. But basically what it means is an absolutely massive adjustment over next several generations, that to keep this biosphere reasonably intact, we always have an impact on it, but to keep reasonably intact, we have to bring this North American civilization to about 1/4 of its current energy and material consumption. If we will not do it, we will not enjoy anything else. Last words, it's easy to be violent. You see all everywhere around, okay? Individually violent or collectively violent. It's very easy to make money. Lots of people make money all the time. It is not so easy not to do something, not to consume. Okay? This is the last audience which wants to hear it probably, because these are the overachievers who want to do something with their money. But the best way for prosperity, for the future and for the planet, is to abstain from excessive consumption. Not a very popular message, but the only rational one I can give. Thank you.
Thank you for standing up. You watched that. Thank you.